The following podcast is brought to you by the Ebb Tide Treatment Center. Many people wrestle with addiction. You don't have to. Reach out to the Ebb Tide Treatment Center, where they wish to empower each individual encountered with the support, hope, and tools required for long-term sobriety, priding themselves on providing the best possible treatment experience for you and your loved ones based on unique needs. They're committed to breaking the stigma that plagues those suffering with addiction and their families by educating and bringing awareness to the community. The Ebb Tide Treatment Center provides individual and group therapy, multiple recovery pathways for support, evidence-based clinical support, integrated aftercare social reintegration, personalized treatment planning, program addressing whole life health, and Vivitrol program, all available. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, reach out to them at ebbtidetc.com or call 844-430-4357. Hello once again, everybody. Thanks for listening to AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's episode, as always, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors that help us bring the show to you for free each and every week. Firstly, thanks to Angelo's Pizza. They're feeding us here as they always do while we record, and they, of course, bring pizza to you at our live events at Mount Carmel. If you want to try more of their pizza or anything else on their menu, it's all delicious. Head to Angelo's on Madison Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. And thanks to Smart Mark Video, they record all of our live events. And if you want to relive any of those or watch them for the first time, you can purchase that on DVD or digital download from smartmarkvideo.com. And additionally, head to powerbomb.tv, sign up using the code ABSOLUTE, and you will get a 20-day trial for free. And then stick around and just keep watching the shows that we put out there from the AIW archives. And as always, thanks to Jack Prince, who helps take care of all of our printing and graphic design needs. They can do all of that and more for you, whether it be banners, t-shirts, business cards, flyers, everything and anything. For all that they have to offer, head to jackprince.com.
JAKPrince.com.
That's right. And that voice that you just heard is none other than our special guest this week, Eddie Kingston.
Yeah. What up?
And of course, as always, joined on the show by AIW owner John Thorne.
The boss.
Yes, the boss. My name is Steve Guy. I'm your moderator of sorts.
He's the moderator and the ring announcer.
Yeah, I'm also that. It turns
sorts.
out. Ring announcer of sorts. Sometimes Pedro fills in or comes back. I feel like I'm the fill-in. I'm still the fill-in.
I ain't about that Pedro life.
Still the fill-in. So on this episode, I guess this is, I don't know.
Episode 123.
I don't know what episode number.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that's the number. But is this an Eddie Kingston origins? I don't know how to describe this.
Origins? I don't know. All I know is I miss Duke. I miss Worldwide. I miss Dom. I miss
you want all these
Dr.
people.
Dan. Yeah.
Let's talk about your love for Worldwide first.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Worldwide is such a character.
Like in real life, though. Like not wrestling.
Real life, not wrestling.
Not
yeah.
the ring. Real life, he's such a character. Like, he walks everywhere weird. He does everything weird. You know what I mean? We got mad noise in the background right now, but we ain't going to talk about that. But all I'm saying is, like, Worldwide is that dude. He's just a weird guy, but in a good way.
Well, you're
Quiet. We're recording.
yeah. He is. It's funny because the team name is Weird World because of Weird Body, but then you look at Worldwide, or you hang out with Worldwide, and you're like, you're
That's
pretty
a
weird all on
guy.
your own.
That's a weird guy.
But like,
Worldwide.
Weird Body's also a weird dude too, but like
is.
he's cool in that way.
All right.
What about
Like, they're unique.
Wait, how about so a lot of people don't know this. Absolution Weekend, you pretty much spent the entire weekend with me
Yes.
in my apartment. And one of the nights, this goes along with your love for Worldwide. We go out with Worldwide at Now That's Class, home of Wrestle Rager 2.
That where Sandman was, right?
Yeah. Tell everybody about our experience that night, because we roll up there and Worldwide's like, there's 2 different music things happening here tonight.
Yeah, he goes, I quit smoking, as he's smoking a cigarette. And then he goes, there's 2 different music things going on. We're like, all right, cool. He's like, upstairs is metal, downstairs is like some type of techno. I'm like, all right, cool, bet. We walk in, me and Steven Guy walk in. We get a drink, and all we hear is, we're like, all right, this is the middle part.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, where's the techno whatever? He's like, oh, it's downstairs. So we walk downstairs, and we walk into a dungeon.
It's all fog.
It's all fog. It's mad dark. We look for a place to sit. We sit down, and where are we sitting? On a what is a Volkswagen? Not a minivan.
It's like a Volkswagen minivan back seat that they
seat.
take out of the van.
Yeah, they took it out.
It's not a couch. It's supposed to be a couch.
You can see the screws still in it. And like we're sitting there, and then all we hear is then we go back upstairs. 666. And I'm like, well, this is Worldwide, and I enjoy it.
But he knew the bartender, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, you guys want a drink?" And we're like, "Oh, sure, yeah." And we order like a drink, and we get back, and it's like this pint glass that's 3/4 away full of liquor.
Oh, like if I ordered a Hennessy and OJ,
Yeah.
it was mostly Hennessy and a splash of orange.
Yonkers Eddie. That's Yonkers Eddie.
That's Yonkers. YO.
That's Yonkers
the
Eddie
Brave.
stuff right there.
So let's get into
it
Yonkers
is.
Eddie, Orlando Eddie. Let's get to
Yo,
the heart
it's
of the matter.
Same person.
Let's get to
Yo,
Gear Eddie, basketball shorts Eddie.
Four different Eddies.
That's you guys made that up.
There are 4 Eddies.
No, I think there's a little truth to it.
No, don't make me wake up Hornswoggle right now. So you can
I
get
think
in on this.
I think basketball shorts Eddie is a little lazy.
Would basketball shorts Eddie be Orlando Eddie? Is that fair?
No, it's not. It's the same person.
How do you view it?
I view that y'all are messed up. It's the same person.
I think when
y'all
you-
made this
They're all
up
the
in
same,
your
he
own heads.
says.
I think when you put the gear on, you take a little bit more pride in your work. You put a better performance together. You feel like a
No.
Yeah,
wrestler.
You don't. You
I
don't
feel
wear,
I feel like when you put the basketball shorts on, you're just like, I gotta wake up early in the morning. I just don't feel like I don't feel like doing too
Nah,
much.
man, I call that my homicide look.
Yeah, you don't wear the bandana. You wear the bandana when you're gear Eddie. You don't wear bandana when you're basketball shorts.
Yeah, because
Eddie.
he's
That's
so
false. That's
he's
false.
he's so fucking lazy.
That's
When he
false.
has the basketball shorts on, he can't even tie a bandana on.
That's false. I've worn it before. That's false.
That's false.
That's false. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you look back at when I wrestled Ethan Page when I was managed by Duke at one of the
That's your other boy.
Absolutions. I like Duke, but it was that Absolution.
You're the only one.
The one where Vader was at, where he beat up.
Oh, Vader, Absolution 10. Yeah.
yeah. That I wore a bandana there. I wore a bandana the other night when I wrestled Martin Stone, and I was in the basketball shorts. Stop
You're
playing.
like,
Stop
Well,
playing.
okay, so tell this story. What did people say? Oh shit, it's basketball shorts, Eddie.
Yeah, so I look on Twitter after the show's done and I'm driving up here from Atlanta. I'm looking at Twitter and it's like, Eddie Kingston. One person goes, this must be Orlando Eddie because he's wearing basketball shorts. Next person goes, Eddie's wearing basketball shorts. Doesn't look good for Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. I was like, yo,
I love
John
that.
Thorne, rest in peace, Biggins. Y'all got to everybody. You guys are wrong.
I think there's a little bit of
Me
truth
and
to
Martin
the theory.
Stones tore it up. All I'm saying is, what's the name of the show tomorrow?
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
Rulers of the World.
rulers of the world.
All
yeah.
right, so at Rulers of the World, I'm wearing my basketball shorts.
Fuck
I'm gonna
no.
show you.
Oh, man.
You better
No.
not.
You
I am.
you heard it here last. 'cause
I
you already
am.
watched
I
the show.
am. And the reason why I am is because I'm gonna beat the piss out of Tracy Williams with the basketball shorts
Oh,
on.
but by the time
and
this
show
comes
you
out,
what's up.
by the time
You
this
can
comes
get
out,
it
people
on
will know.
demand at
Smart Mark Video.
AIW.com/demand and Smart Mark Video and PowerbombTV.com or no?
Yeah, I don't
It
think you
won't
got
be on
any
there
of
for a
those
while.
right, but that's fine.
It's something like that.
I want the fucking cloak and the fucking
Dagger.
The cloak, the ring cloak that you wear.
Sweet movie. Remember that movie, Cloak and Dagger?
Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah,
It's also a good comic.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah,
I want the cloak. I want the fucking pants. I want the singlet top.
You're
That's
like
an extra 50.
You're like Tracy McGrady of wrestling.
Tracy McGrady.
You roll to Orlando, get a little lazy, and like, yeah, I can just roll off on this.
Sports reference I don't get.
I'm going to talk about our love for New Girl.
Oh, John Thorne doesn't watch New Girl.
He
He's
doesn't
not gonna.
watch New Girl. All right.
You're gonna kill your gimmick even further.
Yo, let someone say something dumb about New Girl. Say I won't punch you in the mouth.
But let me say this.
Say I won't. Say I
All right,
won't.
let's briefly.
Yonkers, man. Why yo home of the brave? Say I won't.
Yonkers, Zoe Deschanel.
Why you home? Let me briefly get into this.
The Locks, DMX. What up, man?
Because
Zoe Deschanel.
I always say this. Thorne has one of my favorite quotes.
Staten Island.
Thorne and I are sitting there, and we're like having chicken wings and beers.
I would never be having chicken wings.
Chicken fingers.
Chicken fingers
My
and mozzarella
apologies.
sticks.
I don't eat anything with a bone in it.
My apologies. And we're
sauce.
We're sitting there. And we're having a conversation, and he's trying to like give somebody advice. And he's like, "It's just wrestling. Like you can't make like people. I don't even know how you explain wrestling. Only in wrestling, Eddie Kingston and Steve Guy, best friends. How do you explain that? Wrestling. That's it. There's no other way to explain it."
It's true though, because
We're
like
"Oh,
without
yeah."
wrestling, like how would we have ever met?
You see that? How he just snuck in that, putting himself over though a little bit, saying he's your
everyone
best
does
friend.
that.
That's not what I was
Everyone
trying to
does that.
do.
At least he's not like who puts himself. No, I'm just playing. I'm playing.
Name redacted.
Yeah.
Name. They're gonna bleep that out.
Eat some of my Mexican pizza.
I'm not
please.
eating that Taco Bell pizza. That looks gross.
Oh, because it's Mexican. You're Puerto Rican.
All right, so let's talk about Eddie Kingston. Let's just go down memory lane. Fucking where does Eddie Kingston start? Where does he come from?
Yeah. Someone's really snoring really bad over there. Hold on.
He's only 3 feet tall.
He's only. God bless his heart. He's wearing an American flag. Like
He's sleeping in an American flag.
And it's.
I know that this is an audio podcast, folks, but
I wish someone would take a picture.
Let me
and put
paint the
this.
picture.
Someone take a picture and put this up.
We're trying
The day
to
this comes
Someone's
out.
gonna paint the picture.
we're trying to record a serious podcast, and
Paint the picture for the people.
formerly known as Hornswoggle is sleeping on the floor, surrounded by
Hold on.
Taco Bell wrappers, wrapped in an American flag, sleeping,
There's Cool Ranch Doritos.
and Cool Ranch Doritos.
I'm taking a picture.
And
You guys have
this.
to let me know when to put this up. Though.
It's very distracting to Eddie Kingston as we're trying to
Yeah, because he's
We're trying to
snoring
go down-
pretty loud.
memory lane here, and formerly known as Hornswoggle
It's the wrong way.
is snoring up a storm here, wrapped in an American flag.
Yeah, more like snore swoggle. That's not horn.
That's
I don't know.
That's a Steve Guy joke
I got
we
nothing.
all know and
I
love.
got nothing.
That's such a dad.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Such a dad joke.
Yeah,
All right,
Couldn't do
so
it.
Eddie Kingston, let's get to the heart of the matter here.
memory lane.
Memory lane.
All right. So where I started.
Well, no, like what let's talk about the wrestling that you love and why. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, I was a hyper kid growing up, and my mother used to tell me the only way, when we grew up in the Bronx and University Ave, the only way to keep me like not hyper and like sitting down and shutting up was when she put on wrestling. So my mom would put on any wrestling. She didn't care what kind. There was this, whatever it was. So like I used to see like Memphis wrestling because she would buy like the VHS. Yep.
Yeah, well, in fairness too, like you're in New York, which is a huge market, so you're getting a lot of stuff. Like Thorne and I are here in Cleveland, we're not getting a lot.
Well,
of things.
where I grew up in the Bronx, you gotta remember I'm dating myself. Cable wasn't hot.
Yeah,
At that time, there was no Raw. You know what I mean? There was only
Right.
TBS. And the only time we got NWA, which I thought was super real at the time because they bled
that was the
everywhere.
real wrestling, right?
Yeah, yeah. The only time we got that was during the winter, like from September to January.
Based
Because-
on how the antenna was pointing.
No, because my father would get illegal cable just to see Inside the NFL on HBO. So that's why we would get NWA. So I missed like the summers of NWA all the time.
My parents had one of those cable boxes back in the day.
Oh, the hot box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got served some kind of federal subpoena though.
But yeah, but like we laugh about it now. But like that's what made me love wrestling, man. It's always kept my attention.
Like what? But like specifically, you mentioned the NWA. Like what was like speaking to you at that time?
Oh, at that time, originally it was like for WWF, it was Ted DiBiase, it was Macho Man. Everyone loved Hogan. You know, Ricky Steamboat.
You see, these are shocking guys, honest. Like, these are guys that I would not think.
No,
Yeah,
but like
yeah, you
these
look
are the
at-
guys
you-
off the top of my head that I remember as a kid being like, these are wrestlers.
But even still, like people talk about Eddie Kingston, and you're like Macho Man, Ricky Steamboat, Hulk Hogan, and everybody's like Eddie Kingston, Hulk Hogan,
like,
Macho
no,
Man.
no, but those were the guys you kind of gravitated to. And then when it came to NWA, it was like Dusty Rhodes, Flair, Tully Blanchard. You know what I mean?
Tully Blanchard.
Magnum TA, like, you know what I mean? Rock and Roll Express.
See, Magnum
Midnight
TA, now
Express.
that's a guy where I go, yeah, this is an Eddie Kingston
Yeah,
guy.
even a little bit like
Really?
as crazy as it is, even a little bit of like Dusty because of that he's like so blue collar.
Well, I
if that makes
remember
sense.
as a kid, Dusty Rhodes cut that famous promo where he said, "Put your hand against the screen." I put my hand against the screen as a kid, and I was like, "Oh, he's gonna win the title."
Because you gave him that power.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that, like Dusty was so good at emotion. No matter where you were or who you were, he was able to emotionally grab you. You know what I mean? Black, white, yellow, green. It didn't matter. Dusty was able to grab you emotionally by the throat and drag you with him.
So, like, fast forward to, like, the teen years, which is...
Oh, I was done. I was done with wrestling. I was such a Bret Hart fan that when Bret lost to Shawn, lost as a quotation.
Are you saying, like, the Iron Man, man?
Yes, at WrestleMania 12, I was like, yo, I'm done with wrestling. Because in my head, it was like, yo, Bret's a legit shooter. He was raised in the dungeon. Like, Stu Hart beat him up for years. Like,
There's no way he could lose.
There's no way Shawn Michaels should win.
You weren't buying into what the hell is the name of the guy in Sean's
Jose
corner?
Lothario?
Yeah, Jose.
Yeah. I was like, nah, Jose ain't better than Stu. You know, that's what I was believing.
So what brings you back in, though, after that?
Brings me back is I'm hanging out at a friend's house.
Because I'm not... Like, I got out for a brief amount of time right around the same era.
Well, because we were about around the same age, and we were becoming teenagers at that time. So we were kind of done with Doink.
Yeah.
And no offense, but
Everything
were
was
done
very
with-
comic
We were
book-esque.
done, not
Yeah.
comic book either. It was very cartoonish. I mean,
Yeah, that's better.
It was very
Cartoon.
like... it was almost like believing in Santa Claus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like once you hit a certain age, you weren't supposed to watch wrestling anymore.
we started becoming disenfranchised with it. And then you kind of look at WCW and like I remember watching TBS at 6:05 for Saturday night and for main event. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But they were also trying to be cartoonish to compete with Vince. So you were kind of like you were disenfranchised with that. You were like, this too. So there was really nowhere to go. And then I remember a friend of mine was like, yo, you like wrestling, right? We're over at his house. And I'm not trying to indict myself, but we were just chilling. And I was like, nah, I don't like it anymore. You know, whatever. That was a kid thing. And he was like, yo, B, for real, you got to see this thing. My friend gave it to me. He's like, yo, it's called ECW. The stuff's out in Philly. You got to see it. I was like, all right, man, whatever. Put it on. Wasn't really paying attention. But I remember seeing Raven, Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, which was later became a big influence because he's from around the same area in Yonkers.
Yeah.
And then, wow.
I think Hornswoggle got sleep at
I think he needs that
He's
mask.
talking about Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, he's talking about
sleep
me
apnea.
and my
Hornswoggle
sleep
might have
apnea.
it, yeah.
This dude over here.
He just like swallowed himself.
Yeah, he swallowed all
At
4'3" of
At
himself.
least he dies. He's gonna die wrapped in an American flag,
That's the
We
dream.
won't have to get one
Like a
put on the
soldier.
casket.
That's the dream.
like a soldier.
That's the dream.
A great soldier for Vince.
Anyway, Vince's son. You can ask him about that. So then, come on, man, stop snoring. So we should just kick him in the stomach. But anyway, he put on ECW, and I saw all these guys like the gangsters. I remember
Like realistic,
yes, guys I kind of would see out in the street, or guys I would see at a bar.
Right, especially like Yonkers.
Yeah, or not even Yonkers, just in the Bronx,
in the area,
New York.
Yeah.
just New York in general. You would see these dudes, and like I remember just seeing it was Gangsters Paradise, and I remember seeing. I think it was the Gangsters and someone else. I forgot who it was. I apologize. Against the Public Enemy. It was probably the Gangsters and Scorpio, I think. And I'm, again, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Against Mikey Whipwreck and Public Enemy. And that was a cage match. And I remember watching that just being like blown away.
Was John Cronus in that?
No, I don't think so. I could be wrong, but
I'm just throwing a name out. I don't remember.
John Cronus for a big dude doing that Muda gimmick in the corner and then hitting a 450. Like,
Yeah, dude.
it was just Cronus was just as sweet with that 450 as Scorpio.
So I was done with wrestling, and Matt Wadsworth told me about ECW,
Oh, Wadsworth, what up?
and I saw some stuff, and then I remember it was like in the back of my head, and I was flipping through the channels, and I saw Sports Channel, and New Jack comes out. Like, this must be when the Gangsters break up or whatever. I remember it. Like, he comes out with a legit kitchen sink.
Yes.
And he starts beating up the Dudleys, and I was like, man, this is awesome. You know, just because like, if you think about it now, like, so advanced in wrestling, it is not awesome. But like at that time when you're not seeing like this, like even like it was such like minor violence, but it was just like it spoke to like
It was so different. It spoke to
like
our
teenage
generation.
like
Yeah.
teenage kids. Like, I don't know. And
It
I was,
spoke
like,
to
hooked
our
after
generation that only wasn't able to experience like UWF or Memphis Live.
that. Right. It
You
was
know what I
just
mean?
a different. It was something that was not ever
It
presented.
was violent, man. It was violent. There was blood. Realistic guys, like you believed Raven.
So does that just pull you totally back in?
Oh, sucks me in. And I remember seeing Steve Austin and being a fan of Steve Austin. And still to this day, I believe it was Clash of Champions. It was Austin and Pillman versus Douglas and Steamboat. Still to this day is one of my favorite matches. Top 5 American matches I've ever seen. And I remember watching that and not understanding why it was a good match, but just being so enthralled and invested in it. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I wasn't pulling for anybody. It was just that I was in it.
It's just amazing now, like when you go back and you watch stuff that you like loved for whatever reason when you were a kid, and now you watch it through a wrestler's eyes.
Yeah, it is different.
It's like it's crazy the stuff that like I think it's beneficial though for a lot of guys because it's like sometimes as kids we love stuff that was totally awful, but then you go back and you become a wrestler and you try to look at it through those wrestlers' eyes, and I think it's almost beneficial to see like maybe sometimes like not being the best worker is what works. You know what I mean? Like,
I can definitely see that, but to me, it was just what got me was I understood about being emotionally invested in it. Like, you could not be the best technical wrestler, as I throw quotations up, like, you know what I mean? But if you were able to have the people feel you,
the momentum of the people.
Yes.
Or,
Where did you get that? I think we talk about that all the time, whether it's in private conversation and we talk to trainees or whatever, and not to like blow smoke up your ass, but we talk about that all the time. We're like, well, Eddie Kingston is one of those guys that gets people emotionally invested for a decade plus. Is it that ECW stuff that fuels that?
It definitely started with Dusty. You know what I mean? That definitely was the original guy that got me emotionally invested. And then, of course, as time went on, like Bret Hart. You know what I mean?
This is gonna sound a little weird, but do you think like coming from Yonkers, New York City, like almost inner city life, and you're
Well, I'd like to tell people first off, before we get that going, my parents moved us out of the Bronx to Yonkers for a better living. I decided to go to the ghetto and hang out as a teenager.
Because you thought it was cool.
Well, because I thought I was a tough guy.
But what I'm saying is like, I'm just saying, like, you think New York, you think tough, you think rugged, you think, you hold everything kind of close to the chest.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, once you become a wrestler, do you think that, like, your promos almost become like your like seeing a psychologist, like that is is your outlet?
Yeah, I've told a lot of people I use a lot of my promos as therapy for what I'm going through that day, and then I try to mix it into wrestling, so it's not just a whole cry fest.
Because there's a lot, there's a lot of emotion in there, and like I don't think you could just off the cuff a lot of the stuff that you've said over the years.
And in all honesty, a lot of times it's like I'm a manic depressive. For people who don't know, I take Zoloft every day, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I have a chemical imbalance, all that jazz. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I'm not perfect, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, I'll bring that into a promo, but then mix it in the wrestling, and it kind of makes me feel better about that day, because I never thought I can reach anybody. It's just me being kind of selfish and getting it off my chest. If I had a bad relationship with a chick, I bring it up in a promo and then mix it in the wrestling, Right. Or if, for instance, if I get locked up that weekend for getting into a fight, I'll bring that up somehow in the promo, but mix it in the wrestling, because it's reality mixing into my character, and Eddie Kingston is me at 17 to 18 years old. And because I sorry to cut you off, because I remember Austin and Rock doing interviews and saying, people being like, "What's your character?" and then being like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Oh, the thing that you portray on TV," and they said it's the side of me turned up 1,000 notches. And I look at Austin as the top, in my opinion. Again, it could be debated, but Steve Austin to me was the top guy ever. No one has been better or saved the company. You know what I mean? This dude
drew more money.
Yeah,
true. You could say, you know what I mean? You can look at the money later stat wise, but again, it's another emotional thing. Without Steve Austin, they would Steve Austin and Vince, but Steve Austin was the baby. There would be no WWE if it wasn't for Steve Austin. It would have been
invested more than anybody else.
Yeah, it would have been killed off. Bischoff or whatever and Hogan and NWO, whatever you want to call it, since it's been documented so much. I hate it that they use the term war because no one's dying, but no one's getting shot in the face. But you know what I mean? We could be looking at a world of WCW right now.
Sure.
If it wasn't for Austin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about one of the things that I find interesting is, we talk about the emotional investment, but then from the wrestling side, for people who follow you on social media, they get it, but not everybody does. Like, you constantly are studying and watching stuff from Japan.
Yeah.
Like, that's like one of your favorite things.
If not the favorite. I blame.
It's such a contrast.
So that's what I was gonna ask you. It's like, where in this process of, you go through the NWA, you love Bret Hart, you discover ECW. Where do you discover Japanese wrestling?
It was first I discovered Japanese wrestling in 1989 when the Great Muta went to NWA, and he was so different, doing moonsaults, the face paint, the spitting of the mist.
And that's just because he was in NWA.
Yes.
Like, so you discovered Japan, you just discovered Muta was in NWA.
Discovered one Japanese wrestler.
One Japanese guy. So that kind of was like, oh, wow. Then Masahiro Chono came in 92 to NWA / WCW or WCW, whatever it was at that time. And I remember Jim Ross. And this tells you how important a good commentator is. Jim Ross made the STF seem like the most deadliest submission hold in the world.
Yeah.
Because Luthez, the great Luthez, taught Masahiro Chono that. So then I go and get into ECW, and I tell Dreamer all the time, I said, I blame you and Tupac in Japanese wrestling for ruining my life. But
What a combo.
I know, right?
We'll get into Tupac in a second. Continue. this.
Yeah, but because of ECW, I started tape trading, and then I found RF Video, and I found other places.
RF videos, what like I think that was a gateway for so many people.
So many people because they were the only ones who had stuff at the time. So I started just buying anything that said Japan on it because I didn't know the difference between New Japan and Old Japan. I didn't know the difference.
Wrestling and romance, what about that, man?
Yeah, wrestling and war, and war, man. I didn't know anything. Michinoku Pro, FMW, I didn't know anything. So I would just buy Best of Japan 95, Best of Japan 96. You know what I mean? Just whatever was there. And if Muda and Chono were on it, you know what I mean? It was like a plus. Then I saw Kenta Kobashi, who became my wrestling god. Saw him versus Kawada, 60-minute draw. And the last time I was able to sit down and really be into a match was Brett and Sean. Mm-hmm. And then I said, oh my God, wait, this is not New Japan. Wait, this is not this. And then I fell in love with All Japan Pro Wrestling and fell in love with the King's Road style, as they call it, or the Royal Road style. And that just caught me, and I just couldn't get enough.
And that seems like more of, like now I guess the hype word would be strong style.
Yeah,
and that's like
New
that
Japan.
Before.
Yeah, well,
before
if I
it
could
was
break
named strong style.
Yeah, if I could break it down for you, strong style was a New Japan thing, where it was more about MMA style wrestling. Because at the time before UFC popped off, Japan was the mecca of mixed martial arts.
Right.
So Inoki was trying to mix, in my opinion, again, this is not fact, more of an MMA style into it. Then you had All Japan who said, okay, we're going to do everything the opposite of New Japan. To the point where Baba said, always clean finishes. None of my wrestlers lose by submission. I think maybe one or two lost by submission over the years he was there. You know what I mean? And you got to remember, the King's Road style was more of a Southern style mixed with the Japanese style. Because a lot of these guys were trained by the great Dory Funk Jr. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's the big difference between King's Road and strong style. One's fully MMA kind of style with submissions and stuff. And King's Road was more competition, clean finishes, no submissions, more of a Southern 70s wrestling style.
Do you think King's Road style has kind of more false finishes or whatever down the stretch?
Yeah. It was very for the main events, which a lot of people forget.
Because I feel like strong style is more no selling for the pop, to where King's Road style is more like falsies down the stretch.
It's definitely changed over the years. But King's Road style was definitely more falsies, but also more storytelling in a sense. In a sense, more storytelling.
They were like
almost like Americanized, like pro wrestling matches, but way longer form compared to anything we get.
Yeah, because it was more of like the falsies and the false finishes in King's Road style was so drawn out.
The matches had enough time to tell those.
Yes,
things.
And I think a lot of people forget that, like, when they would see Misawa and let's say Misawa and Kawada reverse moves or kick out of moves or kick out of finishers or do a new finisher, they forget that Kawada. They just see that tape or that match. Right. They forget that Kawada and Misawa wrestled 30 or 40 times before.
Right.
You know, so story.
That's just the story building to that point.
Yeah. So the story would be, Misawa's trying to hit his finisher now because, you know what I mean, 10 matches ago it worked. You know what I'm saying? So that's why he's trying to do it within the first minute of the match. I think that's probably a different story.
I think that's probably a problem with all of pro wrestling as a whole these days. Is like, people don't watch the whole journeys anymore. They just want to see the.
Well, it's also society.
They want to see that
instant
I'm not blaming.
gratification.
3 to
Yes,
5
you're
minute
right,
moment.
and I'm not blaming society. It's just the way things change, things evolve.
No, that's a great point.
And so I don't hate anything because it all evolves. But the generation wants instant gratification. They want it now.
They want that quick YouTube video.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Then
watch
have
a
to wait
YouTube
in-
video. They want a
minute.
gift, dude. That's it.
they want a gift.
Even a gift,
And
yeah.
the way things are nowadays, like because of social media and communication, like you can get it like that. It's just a different time. And I don't hate it. I don't hate what's going on in wrestling. I don't. It's not my cup of tea. I won't
It's just
sit there and
different.
watch it.
Yeah.
Like Independence, I won't sit there and watch.
What's up, everybody? Alex Worldwide Keller here to tell you all about at Thrift Store Jobber, Instagram, Etsy, eBay, etc. You know, I remember when I was a wee little worldwide watching the ECW, I thought Tajiri was the scariest man on earth. His kicks were the most ferocious things I had ever seen in my teenage brain. That said, everyone slaps their leg way too much now, man. You all got to calm down. Because you're not Tajiri, and you're not this size. Double extra large t-shirt straight out of 1999. Live on TNN, we got Tajiri, the boy, in front of a Japanese flag and that ECW logo that lets you know that this is extreme. I don't know if that was... Anyone remember when Tajiri met Elektra and he spit mist in her face and got slapped? That was fun. Sinister Minister? That was good time shit. Anyway, promo code WORLDWIDE to get 10% off your order from at Thrift Store Jobber.
We've bounced around a little bit here, but like, I thought
course.
where is Eddie Kingston at now? You know what I mean? Like, where do you stand now, wrestling wise, goal wise? You know, you're back to being a free agent.
Yeah.
You're back to being independent in wrestling,
Which is fun. It's fun. I laugh and giggle and go, ooh, yeah, but it's fun. It's fun. Because this is where I cut my teeth.
Where do you feel coming off of TNA? How did you feel about that experience, and where does...
Super depressed. And I think it was more of I finally made it to TV and...
TV's Eddie Kingston.
Yeah. And I was getting good checks and I was making good money, you know, and I didn't have to grind as hard anymore. And then it was like, should I keep doing this? God, I don't want to grind anymore.
Yeah.
You know? And then I kind of, and we talked about this earlier, I went back and I watched old All Japan from the 90s. And I separated myself from being the worker watching it. And I went back to being
the fan,
the 16, 17-year-old fan watching it. Seeing Kawada beat Masawa in a singles match at the Tokyo Dome for the first time in a singles match. And some Japanese kid in the audience rips off his shirt. You know what I mean? Running up and down the aisle, ripping off his shirt because he was so happy that Kawada finally won. You know, the big one. And I sat there watching it, and I can tell you every spot of certain matches. You can ask Santana, Drastic, you know, and Ortiz or Angel, whatever they're calling them now from LAX. Like, I remember they were over in my house in Florida.
Yeah.
And I put on like 5 different All Japan matches, and I broke it all down for them.
It was EYFBO or whatever. They were part of the Double Dare.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they came over, and I was like, watch these matches now. I was so, like, adamant. And I broke it all down, and Homicide was there, and he was just laughing. Because the way I was breaking it down and being like, this is why. This is why he threw this strike. This is what, you know.
Yeah.
Because I was so invested in it. And I still am. But that's why I watch. You know, I watched it, and I said, okay, the love's back. Let me go on Twitter and say I'm done with Impact. I have no hard feelings. So I'm done with Impact.
Was that like a mutual thing, or was it like...
Yeah, contract ran up. There was no phone call saying you're fired or you're released. It was just, we have nothing for you right now. Your contract's up. Wish you the best of luck. And I wrote back and I went, all right, cool, thanks. That's it. And that's when I watched a couple matches and I said, okay, time to go back. I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
I tell everyone, like, it's a DMX quote, but it's kind of true for me. Like, what do I want next, Thorne? Like you said, I want a good 5-year run. If I don't, may I die by the gun. You know what I mean? Like, DMX quote, but it's true.
As this guy's bringing up DMX in hip hop, I had to ask it for people who watch. Is like, it's so funny because you're this dude. You're from New York. You're East Coast, and we talk about these are your wrestling influences in terms of the physical style. But then we talk about promos and the emotional investment of Eddie Kingston, and everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, you're New York. You Biggie Smalls, right? B.I.G."
Yeah, so
and you said earlier, you're like, no,
I didn't listen
Tupac. In the era that you grew
Tupac's
up.
East Coast originally, though.
Yeah, from the Bronx,
but like the era that, like,
where it was beef. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of fights.
That's West Coast, East Coast, hard, man.
Okay, so I didn't listen to Biggie until Pac died.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't listen
being a
to
New
him.
York kid. I feel like.
Yeah, I wouldn't listen to him. I was more into like Mobb Deep, Nas, and Wu-Tang.
All right, that's fair.
And like people would try to play or Big L and stuff, and people would try to play Biggie, and I'd be like, I don't want to hear that shit. Pac forever, you know. It was so stupid, you know. But people like why Pac, and everyone thinks it's because of the songs that got played on the radio or the songs that got the videos.
Yeah,
And it wasn't.
yeah, those weren't even some of the best.
No, yeah, those were great songs, great music, but like one of my favorite Tupac songs is off the Me Against the World album, and it's the name of the song is Lord Knows. And it's a deep song, you know what I mean? And like the deeper songs were dealing with depression and wondering why, and you know what I mean? Pac spoke to me because like, yeah, 1 minute I could say, yo, love women, love your mother, and then the next minute, out of anger, I could be like, fuck it, you know, they're all this or they're all that. But that was reality. That was real, you know?
I think I think as we talk here, you know, through your promos and, you know, you're just talking about this, you're a very emotional guy.
Right.
I wear my heart on my sleeve, and like, you know, living in Orlando now is the greatest thing for me.
Do you think
I have a great support system out there.
I'm saying
know?
that like I said earlier, do you think it's because you grew up in this tough atmosphere where you're holding all this in?
Oh yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
that like when something speaks to you, you just like explode?
I explode and I latch on. Because I'll tell you, you know, we'll get deep about it, man. People always ask me, why was I so angry as a kid? I remember 2nd grade being called a spick. I learned about racism in 2nd grade. I remember parents, because my uncles and my father and everybody had a reputation in the Bronx. The Moore family had a reputation. Good or bad, it was what it was. I remember parents telling their kids not to hang out with me. And I'm like in 2nd and 3rd grade. I don't know what's going on in this world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like, I can tell I'm getting emotional now. So I told myself, I remember 4th grade, I told myself, if these parents want to see a black sheep, I'm going to be the blackest sheep they ever seen. You know, I made that choice. You know, and even then, so that's stuck with me my whole life. That anger and that viciousness.
Do you think that's been a detriment to you?
Yeah, I
as
always
you've grown up.
Yeah, even now in wrestling, no matter what it is, like you can have a promoter or a booker anywhere who wants to use me, and my first instinct is, nah, they're against me.
Yeah, we on a previous podcast that I was a part of, we had talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Where like your attitude, like towards that, and the biggest fed in the world, you know, you felt like, oh, this is like that was a gut check for you. You're like, yep, that's why I never got a look. That's why I wasn't a part of it, because
Yeah.
I had this attitude where it's like, no,
Everyone's
this is who I
against
am.
me. And
Everybody's
I
against me.
remember growing up too. it was like,
Now to play devil's advocate on
No,
that,
go ahead.
you
Yeah.
know, with the never getting a look and stuff. Do you think that sometimes you're so reactionary?
Yes.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yes.
So you never get that shot.
And then
Right.
I can sit there
Yeah.
and say, I didn't fail. You know what I mean?
Because I never got it.
Because I never got it.
Yeah.
But it's also like subconsciously me self-sabotaging.
I think you
Right.
want it, but then you self-consciously self-sabotage yourself.
Yeah.
So
it's not like I sit there and go, today's the day where I screw everything up.
Because
It's
there's,
just there.
you know, and that's the joke with the gear Eddie versus basketball shorts Eddie. It's like sometimes you are 150% all in wrestling motivated. Then there's sometimes where you're about, 40% motivated.
Yeah.
And, I think that's where the self-destruct mechanism in yourself comes in. And that's why I make the joke about the basketball shorts, Eddie, because I see that more as like a symbolic of you checking out sometimes.
Yeah, and it's not like I want to check out. You know what I mean? It just happens. But it's also a habit people like myself have to break out of.
Yeah.
I realized, and I would never say I regret anything I've done in this life because I've learned not to. My father has given me a lot of life lessons. You know, the world is cold, bundle up. People like that one, but that was legit. My father telling me that at 8 years old. Another lesson is my father goes, why would you have regrets? And I remember going, what do you mean? Again, I'm like 13, 14 at this time. He goes, it doesn't matter what you do, A or B. We're all going to end up under the ground. And I'm sitting there at 13, 14 like, oh. So whatever decision I've ever made in my life, I take responsibility for it because it does matter while I'm living, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be underground at some point.
So okay.
Either remembered or forgotten. That's me living. That's the only way I can change that if I'm forgotten or not.
So you say, you live with no regrets and all that. And, but let's be real. Where does Eddie Kingston want to be? Like what's the end game for Eddie Kingston?
Yeah. The end game is, of course, WWE in America is the end game.
I'm not saying America at all. I'm just saying for you.
In general?
What makes you happy?
Especially now, as we roll in, like 2018 here at this point.
Wrestling wise, it doesn't have to be WWE, but
in America, let's be honest. If you ain't in WWE, you ain't really making that dough, that guap. You know what I mean?
I'm saying self-satisfaction. You know what I mean? Like,
I'll never be satisfied. I don't think. Honestly, I'll find a reason not to be satisfied. You know, I'll think of a reason why not to. If that sounds hypocritical, then I guess I'm hypocritical.
No, I'm the same way. I'll never think anything's successful.
No, I will never. And it's also like a thing with me, and it's a habit I have to break out of. But I remember growing up and hearing my family telling me, you're an Irish Puerto Rican Catholic from the Bronx. No one's going to want you. No one's going to want this for you. You have to work harder than anybody. Because at the time when I was born in 81, I'm old. But when I was born in 81, being a mixed race wasn't common or even accepted. So it was like my uncles and my father were trying to prepare me for a tough, cold, relentless world. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't think I'll ever be satisfied. Some people were like, aren't you happy you finally got signed to a TV thing? No. Why not? I'm not the top guy.
That wasn't your first contract, though.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Urban Wrestling Federation.
Are we going right to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. But anyway, will I ever be satisfied? No. That's just my mental and the way I am.
You and Lenny Kravitz, that mixed race in the early 80s, man.
Lenny Kravitz is overrated.
Did you? So when you get pitched the Urban Wrestling Project, do you think that that's a shot?
No. I got pitched the Urban Wrestling thing, and the first words out of my mouth were, Homicide called me about it. And I said, yo, how much? He goes, you got to talk to them about that. Cool, bet. Tell them I'm in for now. Okay. I talked to whoever I had to talk to. I don't want to say the dude's name because he's been...
We still got active non-disclosure. I was also an Urban Wrestling Federation employee.
Yeah, you were. And we're going to get to that story. You can tell that because I don't remember it still. But he told me a price. I said, all right, let's do it. The money was good. That's all I thought about was the money.
I mean, they had some money.
They did.
I was there, whatever. We don't need to talk about it any further, but I just knew that we were trying to book Eddie Kingston in the AIW for Absolution 6.
Yes.
And Eddie Kingston, not the best at returning booking inquiries at the time.
Until we were, unless we were cool,
And
now we are.
Is that
what
just
was
because
that?
you didn't trust people?
Yeah, I didn't trust him.
Eddie Kingston was... I was on an elevator, and Eddie Kingston is pretty intoxicated.
I was going.
Man.
I was
Crazy
beat up.
talk.
And I say, "Hey man, are you gonna do this show? It's a it's a doubleheader with Chikara. You're already gonna be there.
Please
blah blah
remember, I was messed up. Please.
blah." And he goes, "I'll do that fucking show if you fucking buy my fucking breakfast right now." And I said, "What do you want? Like $20?" And he goes, "Yeah." So I go, "Okay, here's your $20. You gonna do the booking?" I don't want your fucking money. And he threw it back at me. Then he ended up doing that fucking date anyway.
Yeah.
This ends up being the. Is this the Bryan Danielson double shot?
No.
No.
Later. Okay.
This is a year later.
All right.
This is a year
This
later.
is one of
I
the
know,
wrestled
and-
years that
and
you were
still to
back
this
back
day,
to
like,
Chikara,
He
but-
wrestled. He wrestled B.J. Whitmer on that.
Yeah, that's my man. But like they keep bringing that up. Thorne brings that up all the time, and I'm like, honestly, dog, I'm not even messing with you. I don't remember it. Even when you bring it up, I don't remember it.
But my favorite part about the urban wrestling experience is, you could talk about that for 7 podcasts, but
yeah, very true.
so
With everybody's different side.
everyone gets paid, and like
remember,
everyone gets paid in check, and fucking here I am. I'm like looking for my I get my check. I'm gonna go back to my hotel room, and then I see Eddie Kingston, Julius Smokes, Ricky Reyes, Homicide. They all run to the check cashing place across the street. They go, "We're getting our money before this shit bounces."
Yep.
And they're all
Sabian too was that.
they're taking their fucking $25 off or whatever, so they could get their check instantly cashed because they were so worried it was gonna bounce.
Yeah, because we didn't. It was what it was.
Not
you
like
know?
today, where you could just take your phone and
Yeah,
take a picture.
Wells
like,
Fargo,
I got
what
that,
up?
man.
Shout out to Wells
No, man,
Fargo.
these weren't no payroll checks, man. These were like personal handwritten
Personal,
checks.
yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's what we did. Yeah, it's funny, man. It's funny now, but at that time we were all like, "Yo, we're all going now," and we all just went.
So as we wind this down,
Really, we
what's
winding it down?
yeah,
I'm
we've
joking.
been chatting for a while here, man. Caught a lot of stuff.
Very true. I got to try to get to LA Fitness before the show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sweat out.
What what is next? We talking about the end game, kind of in a general
I
perspective.
just want a
but
good
what's-
run. I want a good run on TV. I want to inspire somebody. I want to be myself.
So it's a TV thing.
Well, that TV money was good, man.
Is it the
It's
money,
not-
or is it just at the
No,
end
no,
of the
no,
day?
it's not just- it's
you
not
want
just the
people
money.
to know who Eddie Kingston was.
I want my work to be.
You want your work.
Appreciate it.
You want
Yeah.
your work to touch somebody like all those guys touched
Yes,
you when you were
I
young.
want to be Tommy Dreamer. I want to be Dusty Rhodes. You know what I mean? I want to be Kenta Kobashi.
Because those guys spoke to you.
Yes.
Right.
And I want to speak to somebody. And I don't think that I can sit there and by the way, Eddie Gilbert was the first American wrestler that made me say I can do this. I want to do it. But I want to be that guy. But I don't think I can do that until I make it into a bigger platform.
Is part of that, and this might be the thing that we end on, but one of the things that you do in AIW at times is have matches with younger guys.
Because they forced me to. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, but you, I mean, you enjoy it. Is part of that enjoyment of having the matches with the younger guys from that?
Yeah, it's definitely from that. It's also because a lot of these younger guys are from a different generation. We talked about it today.
Yeah.
You ask guys from my generation, who's your favorite wrestler? What was the wrestler that made you want to get into this? I say Eddie Gilbert. Someone says Hogan. Someone says Flair. Someone says Rhodes. And nowadays, kids say, oh, Edge.
Right.
John Cena. And I'm like, wait, Edge? You mean the guy from
The Brood?
the guy from the Brood, or the guy that was doing indies in Canada with Rhino and Christian? But again, you got to remember where these guys came from.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of guys now who are coming in who just watched indie wrestling. Again, not knocking it, not knocking it. But I'll sit there and tell a dude, how do you put a match together? And they'll tell me, and I go, okay, that's cool, bet. But what's the story? What's going to get me invested in you?
And this
Right.
is, and just to tie up this loose end here, this is why I put Eddie Kingston in with so many younger guys, because he is a student of the game that can teach things that these guys can't watch on television wrestling anymore. You know what I mean? Like he wrestles a way that is becoming foreign to modern wrestling fans and upcoming, independent wrestlers. So it's like it's so much of a learning experience for those guys to learn how to actually work.
And look, I don't hate the style now, and I know Ospreay and Ricochet got a lot of heat. This is a long time ago, like what, 2 years ago almost?
Yeah, we're pushing that, I think.
But even the Bucks get recently got a lot of
course.
Not even a lot of heat, but people saying that's not the wrestling I grew up on. Well, guess what, man? I remember older generation guys telling me about how much they hated Steamboat and Flair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah, too spotty.
Yeah, and you sit there and go, what? But again, my generation saw that differently. Wrestling evolves. Wrestling is what it is. Do I agree with all of it? No, I don't. But guess what? The beautiful thing is I don't have to.
And I think the great thing about wrestling is you don't have to agree with it, because if you don't like, it's like a movie or a music genre. If you don't like that, you could go watch that. You know what I mean? And it's just
look, I don't like horror movies. Guess what I don't do? I don't watch them.
yeah. Well,
You know what I mean? I love Marvel movies. That's what I tell young kids too. Let's compare our matches to a movie. What made you love this movie, that movie, da 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 da. And then I also tell them at the end of the day, and I'm gonna curse now. I tell them at the end of the day, what's gonna make me fucking stop? Watch you.
yeah.
Get emotionally invested in you. What's gonna make me go, I gotta get this DVD or on? Well, DVD's about to die, but what makes you want to watch you on demand or whatever it is?
Sure.
What makes me want to see you? What's so unique about you that makes me go, oh man, I relate, or I do this or do that, or I hate this or that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
And you could do all the flips, all the kicks, and all that stuff in the world. And people say the Young Bucks, and people can say I'm kissing their asses because I've known them for years. They're really, honestly great guys. But people are emotionally invested in them. Whether they think they're cool because they're like the outside badasses.
in which I agree with. In which
they still emotionally invest in them.
the problem that I see is like the guys that try to do their thing without understanding what their thing is.
Yeah.
And like
There's only one Young Bucks team.
and you get like a bunch of just generic white dudes that are just going through the motions, and like that's
Slapping their legs everywhere.
and that's not what they're doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like people just don't understand.
No, and it's also because people don't want to understand. They just want to do what everyone does.
Right.
Or they think that's the way you get over. Okay, but how? Why?
No one wants to know the how, what, and the why.
yeah. To bring it all together. And
Shut up, Steve Guy. We're going to keep going for another 10 minutes. No, I'm joking.
to bring this all together and kind of paint the picture and serve as an example, giving AIW credit and Eddie credit as well. If you want to see the progress in what we're talking about, look no further than an AIW show called Fresh Meat. You see Eddie Kingston taking on a young Frankie Flynn.
Yeah.
And you go from there, and now you have the production. And you watch Frankie flourishing and catching on to everything that we just talked about throughout this entire podcast. And
Yeah, because thank you for that. But also, Frankie put the work in.
he did.
You know what I mean? I can
that's
lead a
one of the
horse
ways
to
caught
water.
on. Yeah.
But if he ain't going to drink the water,
Right.
shoot the fucking horse in the head. It's a waste.
And then so from there, I use the phrase to describe Eddie. If you are the last of the dying breed, what that means is perhaps you are the bridge of the gap of these different generations.
Am I
at
Luke
this point.
Skywalker?
I don't know much about Star Wars, but maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm all
I
about
didn't see
it.
the newest one.
I'm all about it. Spoiler alert. No. By the way, every time I want everyone, out of respect for Biggins,
Yeah.
I don't know if that podcast is still up anywhere. It's probably not. But every time a new Star Wars comes out, think of Chandler Biggins because he ruined the first new Star Wars Episode 7 for Ethan Page, and it was one of the funniest moments in
Because you were there.
history, yeah. And then he bought us all Denny's, and he looked at me. He was like, "Man, I told him. I said I already saw it. I already knew what happened."
Yeah,
you know?
he was so nervous about that.
So every time a new Star Wars comes out, anybody who's an AIW fan, anybody who knew Chandler Biggins, just remember that dude did not care about spoilers, man. Did not care. Ruin Ethan Page's night.
You know,
Week, year.
He would purposely go to like the Wikipedia of a new
Yes,
hype
yes.
look movie, and he would just like, I just want to see what happens, and I was like, you don't want to watch it?
No, it wasn't that he wanted to see what happened or watch it. He wanted to be
wanted to
able.
root for
He
everybody
wanted to be able to go up to certain guys and go, "Guess what? I know." Rest in peace, man. We miss you all the time. I don't think I'm really that good or that great, or I'll be a millionaire already. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who books me because I get paid. Thank you for everyone who's had my back because I know I'm not the easiest person in the world to get along with or do business with because I'm a hard-headed dude. And that's really it, man. I just want to say thank you. I'm 38 states, 5 countries when I should have been dead at 2021 that they told me. So let's end it on that I'm thankful. And Hornswoggle is still snoring. I don't know if we got that in the background, but it's hilarious.
Sure it's there.
But you got to leave it in. You got to leave it in for the whole show because
there's a way to take it out.
I will put the pic. I will send you the picture, and you guys put it up when this goes up.
And we'll have to have you back on the podcast so we can actually talk about you doing anything in AIW.
Yeah, wow, yeah, get it. AIW years. You know what I mean? Also, what's the other sponsors? Oh, I got it. One more. Ready? One more time.
You can do it one more time?
JAKPrince.com. What was the bar that we go to?
The Funhouse.
Thefunhouse.com. No, just Funhouse.
Yes, for them.
In Ohio.
Pizza, Smart Mark Video, Ebtide
Mike
Treatment
Burns.
Center,
G
Burns'
Unit,
Smart Mark,
Gary Walter,
and Jack
Shanae.
Cinema Mall.
Robles.
Yeah,
Robles, whatever.
one more time.
Sometimes Ivan.
For
Yeah.
Eddie Kingston and AIW owner John Thorne.
Smart Mark Andy.
Keep it thorough in every borough, huh?
My name is Steve Guy. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Come right
Steve
back
Guy's
here.
still pretty funny, man. I seen him at his stand-up. He was funny tonight.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate
One
that.
time.
And-
only.
And hey, we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks,
you
everybody.
got real mad. Please. One, keep it on it.